So, as you said, Nabil Shaath, the senior PLO official, is with us here in the studio. Mr. Shaath, thanks for being with us. Let's deal with what that gentleman that Zainab was speaking to there. He's quite angry. He says, when is the Palestinian Authority going to pack up and let the Palestinians determine their own future?
Well, the Palestinians gained a lot when there was a leadership for them called the PLO that was recognized the world as representing them. I mean, a people without a representation is a people that goes nowhere. And I think it's when the world recognized the Palestinian leadership is when we started making progress. We moved from a refugee issue to the issue of a people with a land, with rights, with self-determination and the right to a state.
But the PA has lost its legitimacy, hasn't it? I mean, as that gentleman says, he accuses you of being a puppet regime for the Israeli occupation.
Well, I understand and I forgive him. I think he really misses the point totally. I mean, during these years in the occupied territory, we were able to bring in 250,000 Palestinian refugees inside the West Bank and Gaza, which was a reversal of a 20-year-old deportation every year and transfer of Palestinians every year. We were able to create a personality for the Palestinian that was recognized in the world. We are pushing that today to be an independent state that the world is recognizing. It's true what he said. I've heard his last statements that today negotiations looked futile with Mr. Netanyahu. It is futile, and that is why we are out of negotiations. We are out of negotiations into non-violent popular struggle, into international actions such as the anti-apartheid action of the South Africans. We are into trying to regain our national unity and into building institutions for the state that will come. This is a strategy that starts from the recognition that today negotiations are going nowhere.
I want to ask you about the Palestine papers. The PA has been very critical today of Al Jazeera since our first broadcast 24 hours ago. Have you had an opportunity to look at the Palestine papers on our website? Do you share the belief that they're a fabrication, or as Saib Erekat today has been saying that the documents were linked to my office? He says he appears to be coming around to the view that they are perhaps genuine. We'll have an investigation, he says, into what happened, and I will be subject to the force of law, the legal process himself. Do you accept that they're genuine?
Well, they probably are. The question is not really is how do you read them. First of all, of all these papers, only 3 were papers that officially were submitted to the Israelis. These are called on top non-papers, and they had the motto, nothing is agreed until everything is agreed, non-binding papers. And therefore, all the papers that we have submitted the Israelis out of all of this 16,000 page mess are really 3 papers, 1 on territory, 1 on Jerusalem, and 1 on refugees. And these are non-papers, and the statement is that they are non-binding and that unless everything is agreed, nothing is agreed, number one. Number two...
But have you read them yourself? You say they're probably genuine. What do you mean by probably?
Well, what I heard yesterday, what I have seen on Al Jazeera, these are statements that looked like, I mean, I don't know, I have not seen them in front of me. They looked like they are genuine. The question, they were read out of context, they were read out of the proviso that I've just said.
Well, we'll put them into context for us. If they're out of context, well, I mean, people can go on and...
I'll give you 2 examples. There's one statement yesterday that proclaimed that Mr. Erekat said, I'll do anything, but I will never become a Zionist. Well, this was really, if the paper, I recall the paper in which this was mentioned, this was in response to the question, would you recognize Israel as a Jewish state? And he said, no, I will never do, because I will never be a Zionist. But that was not mentioned in the paper yesterday. Another one, there was a statement that Ms. Livni said to Mr. Erekat or to Mr. Qrea, I do not want to discuss Jerusalem. Cut, as if this was the statement. But Ms. Livni went on discussing Jerusalem for months. And therefore, this is what I mean out of context. And secondly, out of the proper assessment of what these papers are. They are non-papers and they are non-binding, and they do not form the body of an agreement until there is a full agreement reached. We have not reached an agreement, neither in Camp David, nor in Taba, nor in Annapolis, nor in these negotiations with Ms. Livni and Mr. Olmert. None, and in fact, we are today out of these negotiations, saying that if Israel did not implement what was first done in the interim agreements, how can we trust that Israel will ever be able to implement or willing to implement a new final permanent status agreement?
I just want to bring you back to you were talking about something being out of context there, and you were quoting from what you'd heard on Al Jazeera yesterday. This is the actual quote. Saeb Erekat says, "We've never denied Israel's right to define itself. If you want to call yourself the Jewish state of Israel, you can call it what you want." That's taken from the actual documents.
There was another paper yesterday that was presented after that, and obviously there is a disconnect between these two statements, in which he said, "I will never be a Zionist." This is in response to what? This is in response to a question about recognizing Israel as a Jewish state. Israel can call itself what it wants, that's what he said. But we will not recognize that statement about Israel, because it jeopardizes our people in Israel, the Palestinians in Israel, and it jeopardizes the right of our refugees. It's very simple.
24 hours ago, we found it very difficult to get any comment at all from the PA. We had Saeb Erekat speaking on our Arabic sister network. He was very, very angry at the time, and then nothing. No one wanted to say anything. There was complete denial, it seems. Today you're here. Is this a damage limitation exercise?
No. I am really trying to respond to what had happened. What had happened is, for 10 years, now we're going into the 11th year, we have been discussing permanent status negotiations, and we got nowhere because of Israeli intransigence. We have committed ourselves to nothing except our very clear principles. On land, it will be the land of 1967 occupied in the West Bank and Gaza. It was clearly in the papers that you presented in your Arabic version that this includes the Dead Sea, the no-fire zone, Gaza, Jerusalem. It includes all of those. And it's very clear that if we are going to make very limited swaps, it's going to be one-to-one, and that these swaps have conditions upon them, and that refugees have a right to return and to be compensated, and no figures were ever really discussed or agreed with Israel.
It's clear that the Palestine Papers, the release of the Palestine Papers has triggered a lot of anger among not just Palestinians, but people who care passionately about the well-being of people in the region right around the world. What do you think the long-term impact will be on the Palestinian Authority? Is the PA the right body to be negotiating on behalf of Palestinians wherever they may be?
There is no other body. This is the body that the Palestinian people have chosen. Every negotiating experience...
But does it have a legitimacy anymore?
They do. I mean, the question about delayed elections because of the separation we have between here and Gaza does not negate the legitimacy of the PLO as the representative of the Palestinian people. Every negotiating experience really had to go to the Palestine National Congress, the Madrid negotiating, the Oslo negotiations, the Wye River negotiation. Each one of them was passed by the Palestine National Congress. And now, if there is going to be a permanent settlement negotiations, it's going to go to a plebiscite, to a referendum, where the Palestinians, and I repeat, inside and outside Palestine, will have the right to vote on them. And before they accept them, there will be absolutely no agreement with Israel.
Nabil Shaath, many thanks indeed.